Hello, welcome back. My name is Hazel Tunbridge and I am proud owner of this Epic 3 and I'm also the owner of Graceful Embroidery, and today, as promised, we are going to stitch out our first design on this machine. So let's start by turning it on. It's always difficult to know how to position the camera for you, but hopefully you can see the overall machine and you can see any stitch outs. As you can see, I have the exterior and the front extensions to the embroidery bed, and I've got those in place and I'm going to leave them in place. I haven't decided differently as yet. I have a pre-wound bobbin already installed, and hopefully the design that we're going to stitch out today will be sitting on my sew net. As you can see, I'm using this stylus which I shared with you last time, and I find this is better because my fingers don't get in the way and you can see a little bit more. So I will swivel the camera around just a tiny bit so we can focus in on this screen. Now, when you open the screen, when you turn your machine on, as I have just done, you always get this little bar across here which says continue from save state, and if you've been embroidering a design previously, you can go back to it when you turn this on. But we're not going to do that. We're going to load something new. So we touch the embroidery. And the first thing it tells me is that it wants to calibrate. You can't see it doing this, it's off screen. But you can hear it's not too loud. Now, if you are at all familiar with the Epic 1 or the Epic 2, this screen is very different, and I confess I am still working my way around it and working out what to do. But this is the all-important menu here, and we can pull this into the centre of our screen so that we can look at it, and we're going to quickly go through what all these symbols mean. This one enables us to move it around. This is the projector, and we can turn it on and do the settings, but we're not going to do that today. And to get rid of it, we have to click the darkened icon. The next one is the designs, and you can see they're set in different folders, different collections, and you can scroll across and open them. Fashion, frames and borders, and loads of them. So let's close that one. The next one are our fonts. We have embroidery fonts and stitch fonts. We'll close that. And then here we have our stitches. And remember, you can put stitches into your embroidery designs. When you're combining several designs, you can add some stitches as well if necessary. And that scrolls across to all the different sections that you may be familiar with if you've got a Husqvarna machine. Turn that off. Now, this one looks like layers, and that's what it is, but we're not dealing with those today. And then we have this one, which is a folder. And this, as you can see, has opened my sew net. And I am logged into my sew net, and we'll find the design we're going to stitch in a minute. But let's just look at the other ones. This one here is where we can edit our colours. And this one here is the My Sew Net library. And if you are subscribed to the My Sew Net library, you can open designs. And there's loads in there if you are subscribed. Let's turn that off, and then we have a search. So let's go back to our folder here, and this is My Sew Net. Now, I know that the design we're going to stitch today is not in a folder. It's down here somewhere. And as we are halfway through January, we are going to stitch a heart. So we select it, and we can move this back over the side, but we can't close it. It's always there. Okay, so this is the design we're going to stitch out today. Now, at the moment, let's look up the top here. It's showing at 100%, and it's saying up here that we're going to stitch it in a 120 by 120 hoop. Next to it, it tells us how many stitches, and there are 18,268. And then on this one here, it tells us which foot, and we have actually got our sensor Q foot. Let's see what happens when we touch that. That gives us much more details on what I've just said already, so we can close that again. Now, down the bottom here, we have several menus that we can select. And if we find that when it opens we need to change the hoop size, we can go to hoop options. And here you can see all the hoops that the Epic 3 can use. But underneath the Splendid hoop that we're going to use today, you notice that we have a different symbol at the side. And this is the symbol for this, which enables us to use our older Husqvarna hoops on the new system. So they're all listed down underneath the hoops for the Epic 3. We're not going to use that today because we are going to use the Splendid square hoop. So we can close that down, and here we can change the colours and play with lots of things, but we don't want to get into that today. So we have our hoop options. We don't need to save anything, and we're not going to create any stitches or do a sequence or do shapes or an applique, but we want to find out how to stitch it out. Look down here, you can flip the design side to side, but you've got to highlight it first. And if you don't like what you've done, you can go back at the top. That one would duplicate it, and this one flips it that way. And going back one is up the top. And this one here is deleted, and we definitely don't want to do that. So that's editing the design. Let's go back to the stitch out. Now what we've got the stitch out settings, and it reminds us of the plate we've got in. It tells us we've got the sensor Q foot in, and you can turn this off, but I suggest you leave it there because it is nice to check everything before you start. Apply. Now you can hear my hoop coming over and see it there in the corner, and it's asking me to attach my hoop. I have already hooped one layer of stitch and tear, and then with my remnants that are left over, I have a little square that's in the middle here, and that's attached with temporary adhesive spray, and so is my silk dupion. And we're going to move this over here, and we're going to click it onto the embroidery unit. And it's good to have a look and get used to what happens when you click it in place. It's not so difficult, it's not such an issue with these hoops, but when you're using your older Husqvarna hoops with the attachment, you do have to be really careful. On one occasion I hadn't actually attached it correctly. So we can say yes, we've attached the hoop. Now, here we have our colour block options. As you can see, I've got it on ghost mode at the moment. I'm going to turn that off, And once again, we've got these 3 lines and we can move them around. Okay? And we can also scroll in and put our design there. I like to try and sort of put them side by side as much as I can. So when we go into ghost mode, it shows you just the colour that you're going to be stitching out, and the big cursor here shows us where the first stitch is going to be, and then you can move through the design colourways and see the different stitch outs that you're going to do. I don't need the red outline alignment stitches, which is something which is peculiar to Graceful Embroidery. They show you the shape of your design, and it's quite useful to stitch those out just on the hoop stabilizer, especially if you're not sure exactly where to place your fabric. These will give you a good idea of the shape of the design and help you to do that, and those are exclusive to Graceful Embroidery. The second, let's bring that down here. I think that's better, and move that up a little bit. There, we can make it a tiny bit smaller. The second colourway is always in blue, and that's the second set of outline alignment stitches, which is just a basting box for those who don't have that facility on their machine. I don't need any of those, because if I go for baste, a little box pops up and I can baste around the design, or I can baste around the hoop. And in some instances I actually do both, but we're just going to baste around the design. And I've closed that. Now, when you do that, the colours that you're going to stitch immediately disappear. So I'm going to turn that off because I don't want to put, oops, I need that pink. I was looking to see what pink it is, because it's quite handy not to actually, you don't want to do your outline in a different colour and then discover it's not your first colour of your stitch out. Now I'm going to show you something very important that I've noticed not everybody does. You can't see the whole of the threading, but this is the most important bit. When you take your thread up there and bring it back down here, you pull the thread, you floss it like you floss your teeth. And that's the last thing my dealer said to me as I left the showrooms. It just keeps the tension discs nice and clean. So I'm going to thread it through there, press that button there, and it has threaded my needle with my pink thread. I'm going to go back to the baste around the design, click outside the box, and then press this all important stitch, which will do my block, my basting box. Now, it stopped and said cut and remove the thread tail. I have decided, with my previous machines, I've always had the cut and trim facility put on. But this week I've turned it off, and I'm going to see what a difference it makes to my stitch outs. So when you do that, you always get this cut and remove the thread tail, but there is no thread tail there, so I can just carry on. When I press play, that little box disappears. I'm ironing this with my fingers, making sure everything is extremely flat, even though I've put the adhesive on. And it's moving in readiness for the next colour, which is this pink here. And with this option, you just have to trim your thread. And I've been doing it for a while, and I've found it quite interesting. Anyway, we've got some little swirls down here, and we're going to stitch those now. I stopped there just to show you how the slider here can change the speed at which you're embroidering, and obviously you can also attach your foot pedal and control the speed of your embroidery with that. We now have that finished, and I'll turn that off, and we're now going to stitch out something in a very pale green. Salty Rayon 10063. I've got to cut my thread and remove that one. Now we close that, we can see that we're going to be stitching out some leaves, 4 sets of very pale green leaves. Right, our leaves are complete. And we're going to stitch out a different pink now. Let's go across and have a look at the screen, see what it tells us. I'm just going to drop the camera. I had it up higher so that you could look down on the embroidery. I'm going to take that green off, and as you can see we're going for a slightly darker pink now in our heart. I'll just quickly thread that, do the flossing and do the automatic threader. Right, cancel out that box. And as we can see for this one, it's number 6, and I wouldn't say that these minutes are that accurate at the moment. I don't know why it's saying 55 minutes, because that's not right. So there's our heart, and I believe we've come out of ghost mode, haven't we? Oh no, we haven't. As you can see, this is another big embroidery. We are doing the surround of the heart, and you may notice that the edging, when I digitize this, I put the edging underneath rather than on top, and then we've got some little roses and swirls. So I'll take a few shots of this stitching out, but I won't show you the whole thing, and we'll come back when it's finished. surround for our heart is complete. So let's go back to the screen, and we have an accent, a purple accent, and it's just a bit plain. Right. Our heart is now finished. The surround is finished, and we have some, we're going to go back to our darker colour that we used before. And we're just going to fill in the tops of those roses. I have a confession to make. I honestly don't know whether you could do this on the previous epics, and I'll have to discover, or you'll let me know. But if you're doing a big embroidery and you're waiting, you can actually, while it's stitching out, you can touch this button here, which looks like half a cloud, and the blogs will come up, and you can be reading those while the stitching's going on. But even better, if you touch this one, your user's guide comes up. So while you're actually stitching, you can be familiarizing yourself with the machine by reading the user's guide. And when you've had enough of that, go back to the design. As you can see, we're going to fill in these little squiggles in the middle now. I'm going to bring my machine forward and just do a little bit of trimming. I think I've got them all there, but I'm very much aware that when you put your embroidery in a different light, you often see jump stitches. Which is why I always encourage you to move it around and look at it from several angles so that you can see any bits that you've missed. And we're going to do some tiny little flowers. Sorry to knock the camera. Floss my thread. Not sure if I did it last time. Take me back to the next stitch, and we're just going to fill in these little flowers here. There's about 5 of them. Now that time it did leave a thread. And that is our embroidery complete. As you can see, we've got a little message over there. Let's move. Right, our design is complete. So I'm going to release the clip there and lift our embroidery up. Oh, I forgot to cut the threads. This is quite a new experience for me, not having the cutter on. One of the reasons I've done this is just to compare the whole experience, but also I also want to see whether I don't get so many threads collecting in my bobbin area. And if you're sitting here, it's not too much bother. Right, there's the design complete. Sorry, it's gone dark because the light's behind it. Now, that's an example of what I was saying. I held it up with the light behind and I could see a few more stitches that needed to be trimmed. So let's go to the screen now and I'll show you how to finish your design. Right, we click OK, it's finished. And at this point, if you want to save it, you can save it down here. I'm going to cancel out the stitch progress. And what you have to do now is go up to the top here and click this arrow here. And you can hear that the embroidery arm moves to the side. And then you select the design. Wait a minute, I've done it wrong here. That's it, I had edit design. See, this little arrow takes that up and down. So if it's like that, you need to click the button up, and then with it selected, you delete it and it takes the design off your screen. So I hope you found that useful. There is obviously a lot more that can be done, but we stitched that out without too much bother. And the good news is that that design is available free to you. It's been a while since I've had a free design for my YouTube subscribers to download, but this heart design is for you. So check in the description below this video and you will see how to download it. You'll find the little button. And I would say, please don't download this design if you haven't subscribed to this channel. That's the only condition that I ask you to do. And I hope you thoroughly enjoy it and you can use it for some sort of Valentine projects. So until next time, I haven't decided quite what the next video will be. There's just so much to look at, but I do know that there's another update coming, so I may wait until that comes out and see what other new exciting features the Husqvarna Epic 3 has. So this is Hazel Tunbridge from Graceful Embroidery saying thank you so much for watching and enjoy your embroidery journey. And until next time, happy hooping. Oh, and by the way, please subscribe and leave a comment, or at least a like button, and that helps more people find out about Graceful Embroidery. Thank you for watching, and I do appreciate your time. Bye for now.